On August 6, 1945, at 8:15 in the morning, a single bomber released one weapon over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The explosion equaled 15,000 tons of TNT detonating all at once. The temperature at the center reached several million degrees. 70,000 people died instantly. The man who gave the order to drop that bomb was Harry S. Truman. A former haberdasher from Missouri, he had been vice president for exactly 82 days before Franklin Roosevelt died, leaving him to make a choice that would define the limits of presidential power. When historians and the public look back at this history, they often present the United States as entirely heroic or entirely monstrous. The actual historical record rejects those simple categories. Living in the atomic age means grappling with the fallout of that morning and attempting to parse a truth that refuses to be simple. By the summer of 1945, the war in Europe was finished. Hitler was dead. But the war in the Pacific was grinding on. Under the defense plan Ketsugo, the Japanese government had mobilized its civilian population to fight to the death, training citizens with bamboo spears to meet any American soldier who set foot on the home islands. American military planners had just seen a preview of what invading those islands would cost. Capturing the volcanic terrain at Iwo Jima took 36 days and nearly 7,000 American lives. At Okinawa, over 100,000 Japanese soldiers died defending the island, reflecting a military culture that viewed surrender as an impossible shame. This chart visualizes the projections military planners handed to the president. They estimated an invasion of Japan, Operation Downfall, would cost up to 1 million American casualties and millions more Japanese lives. Those figures were the primary metric Truman used to evaluate his options. There was also an immense bureaucratic momentum driving the bomb's use. The Manhattan Project had consumed $2 billion and employed 130,000 people. This massive industrial footprint had been built specifically to produce a functional weapon for the war effort. Some scientists on the project, led by physicist Leo Szilard, circulated a petition begging Truman to demonstrate the bomb on an uninhabited area first. The military rejected the idea. America only had 2 bombs ready, and a failed public demonstration might have strengthened Japanese resolve instead of breaking it. Faced with these numbers, Truman and his advisors looked at the options on the table. To the men making the choice, the sudden destruction of 2 cities appeared as the least catastrophic way to end the conflict. Critics of the decision point out that by August, Japan was a broken nation. American submarines had blockaded the islands, cutting off vital supplies. Conventional bombing campaigns had already destroyed 67 Japanese cities, leaving the Air Force with almost no fuel and the Navy without a fleet. Japan's leadership was secretly seeking a way to end the fighting through Soviet intermediaries. Their primary condition was a guarantee of the emperor's safety. After the bombs fell and the war ended, the United States allowed the emperor to remain on the throne, raising the question of whether that same concession could have secured a surrender earlier. The timing of the bombs also had a diplomatic dimension. Months earlier, Allied leaders gathered at Yalta and agreed that the Soviet Union would enter the Pacific War in August 1945. The Soviet Union declared war on Japan on August 8th, between the 2 atomic strikes. Some historians argue the bombs were used partly as a message to Stalin, a display of power meant to establish American dominance at the beginning of the Cold War. These strategic calculations look very different when measured against the reality on the ground. The Japanese survivors, known as hibakusha, lived the rest of their lives with severe burns, radiation sickness, and a society that often discriminated against them out of fear of their injuries. Setsuko Thurlow was a 13-year-old schoolgirl sitting a mile from the Hiroshima epicenter. She accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of all survivors, describing the weapon as an ultimate evil that erased her classmates and redefined the scale of human cruelty. Understanding the full truth requires weighing the military logic of stopping a prolonged war against the moral cost of deploying such a weapon against a civilian population. Japan formally surrendered on August 15, 1945. Truman maintained for the rest of his life that he had no regrets, insisting the bombs saved millions of lives on both sides. The deadliest conflict in human history was over. Pacing slows slightly, but this victory changed the nature of global security, as the following decades saw the development of hydrogen bombs and a global arms race. The world arrived at the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, a standoff where the only way to win a war was to ensure it never started. That system almost shattered during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, when the world stood only 17 seconds and one dissenting Soviet officer away from total annihilation. This map tracks the legacy of 1945. 9 countries now hold nuclear arsenals. The race encounter represents 12,500 warheads currently distributed across the globe. Every single one is a direct descendant of the technology deployed over Hiroshima. The ongoing debate over Truman's choice isn't a historical exercise. It's an attempt to understand the mathematics of survival. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are the only 2 names on a list we have spent 80 years trying not to expand.